What if the moment you think you've gone too far is actually the moment you can turn back? What if the place you call failure is not the end of your story, but the beginning of your return? And what if the voice you think is silence has actually been waiting for you to come home all along? There is a story in Luke 15:11-32 that Jesus told, and at first it sounds like a family conflict. But beneath it, it is something much deeper. It is a story about identity, distance, regret, mercy, and a kind of love that refuses to give up. A man had 2 sons. The younger one made a bold and painful request. He asked for his share of the inheritance early, something that was normally received only after the father's passing. In other words, he was not just asking for money. He was asking for independence at the cost of relationship, and the father gave it. No argument, no fight, no stopping him, just release. So the younger son left home. He traveled to a distant land, far away from everything familiar. At first, it probably felt like freedom. New places, new experiences, no rules, no boundaries, a life that finally felt like his own. But freedom without direction slowly becomes emptiness. The story shifts as the money runs out, the friends disappear, the excitement fades, and what remains is something far more difficult: survival. He ends up feeding pigs, a detail Jesus included very intentionally. For a Jewish audience, pigs represented something unclean, something far below dignity. The one who once demanded independence now finds himself in a place he never imagined. And in that moment, something changes inside him. He begins to think clearly again, not emotionally, not impulsively, but honestly. He remembers his father's house. He remembers that even the servants there have enough to eat while he is starving. And then comes a turning point that defines the entire story. He decides to return, but not as a son, as a servant. He prepares a speech in his mind. "I have sinned. I am no longer worthy. Treat me as one of your hired workers." That is the language of someone who believes they have lost their identity completely. So he begins the journey back. But what happens next is what makes this story unforgettable. While he is still far away, his father sees him. That small detail carries enormous meaning. The father was not absent. He was watching, waiting, looking. And when he sees his son, he does something unexpected for an older man of that time. He runs. Running in that culture was not dignified for a father figure. But love does not always move according to social expectations. It moves according to urgency. The father runs toward the son, not after he cleans himself up, not after he explains everything, not after he proves he has changed. While he is still far away, and before the son can even finish his prepared speech, the father embraces him. That moment changes everything. The son tries to speak. He begins the words he rehearsed. But the father interrupts the script with action. He calls for a robe, a ring, sandals. Each item carries meaning. The robe represents honor. The ring represents belonging. The sandals represent sonship, not servanthood. In other words, the father restores identity before the son can even finish describing his failure. And then comes celebration. A feast is prepared. Music begins. Joy fills the house because what was lost has returned. But the story does not end there. There is another son. The older brother hears the celebration and becomes angry. He refuses to enter the house. He stands outside, separated not by distance this time, but by resentment. When the father comes out to him, he expresses frustration. He says he has served faithfully for all these years, never disobeyed, yet never received a celebration like this. This moment reveals something important. The older son was physically close to the father, but emotionally distant. The father responds gently. He says, "Everything I have is yours." But then he adds something deeper. "We had to celebrate. Your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." This is not just a family reunion. It is a reflection of 2 different ways of understanding relationship. One son tried to earn worth through obedience. The other tried to find worth through independence. But both had to learn something about grace. The younger son thought he had to return as a servant. The father restored him as a son. The older son thought he deserved reward. The father reminded him that relationship was never about transaction. At the center of this parable is a truth that challenges both extremes. Distance does not cancel identity, and proximity does not guarantee understanding. There are moments in life when people feel like the younger son, far away, disqualified, disconnected. believing that too many mistakes have been made to ever return to what was once home. And there are moments when people feel like the older son, responsible, present, doing what is right, yet quietly feeling overlooked or unrecognized. Jesus places both inside the same story to show that both hearts need to understand something about the nature of the Father. The Father does not measure worth the way people do. He does not track distance as disqualification. He does not withhold restoration until perfection is achieved. Instead, he looks toward the horizon. He waits, he runs, and he restores. The journey of the younger son is not just about rebellion. It is about realization. The moment he comes to himself is one of the most powerful turning points in the story. Because sometimes the hardest place to reach is not a distant land, but a clear understanding of where you truly are. And sometimes the beginning of return is not movement, but awareness. I will go back to my Father. That decision changes everything. Because return always begins inside before it becomes visible outside. When the Father sees him from a distance, it suggests something constant. The Father never stopped looking, which means the Son was never erased from memory, never removed from love, never excluded from hope. That detail reshapes how the entire story is understood. The embrace is not a reward, it is recognition. The celebration is not a surprise, it is restoration. And the invitation to the older son is not correction through force, it is invitation through love. The parable ends without telling us the older brother's final decision. It leaves the door open. That silence is intentional. It invites reflection rather than conclusion. Because every listener must decide where they stand in the story. Are you the one returning? Are you the one staying outside? Or are you the one being invited to understand a love that does not operate on human terms? At its core, this parable is not about distance traveled. It is about relationship restored. It is not about how far someone can fall. It is about how far love will go to bring them back. And maybe the most surprising part is this. The Father does not wait for explanation before embracing. He embraces in order to begin restoration. That shifts everything, because it means that return is not something you earn before coming home. It is something you experience when you arrive. No speech required, just presence, just return. And in that return, identity is restored, not rewritten. The story ends with celebration still happening inside the house, reminding us that what is lost is not ignored, and what is found is not treated casually. It is honored, it is welcomed, it is celebrated, and it is restored. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to come back.